James, thanks for coming on the Comics Odyssey
Thank you for having me, Ulysses.
podcast.
This is cool.
Yeah, I found your website. I think it's just a YouTube algorithm graced me with your live stream where you just draw different things and you have your Alpha Red promotion there.
Yeah.
And I like your style and I like your drawing. So I wanted to talk to you about your new Kickstarter, Alpha Red. So tell us about the Alpha Red character. Like,
Okay.
what's the basic pitch?
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Ulysses, and so I'm glad that you found me. I'm glad the algorithms of YouTube finally worked in my favor. They don't seem to
Only did something right.
right. So Alpha Red, I describe it. So I go to comic book shows and stuff. So I developed a pitch for Alpha Red, and it goes something like this. Alpha Red is Peter Parker as Captain America on a James Bond adventure. So that's the hook. And then I tell them that Wes is your friendly neighborhood handyman who gets chosen by a secret organization to have a chip implanted into his brain, which makes him super strong, super fast, and super smart. And he's given gadgets like James Bond with a supercar and a super suit, and he has to stop Omega Black from taking over the world. And Omega Black is a transforming robot tank piloted by Satan. So that usually gives people enough information to accept the comic book that I put into their hand, and they'll flip through it, and hopefully they're inspired by the artwork to lay down $5 and take at least one of the books home.
Right. Well, you chose the biggest bad of all the big bads. That's quite a task for your hero to
It
overcome,
is.
but I guess
Yeah.
probably a task we're all required to overcome.
Yeah. I don't know when that came about because I mean the origin of Alpha Red's birth includes another co-creator, and we were just kind of goofing around. Like we wanted to break into the mainstream. I wanted to draw comics for Marvel. He wanted to write superhero comics, and he was writing an independent superhero comic already. But we had been put together on a story that was published by Alterna Comics, a World War II zombie anthology. So he had written an 8-page story, and I had met the guy who was organizing it at a convention. I sat next to him. And so he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I have a writer who has an 8-page story who needs an artist. Would you be that artist?" And so I did 8 pages, and then that's how we met. And then we were like, let's do superhero comics. And we came up with Alpha Red. And it was like this generic Captain America-ish kind of storyline. And it was patriotic, and he was going to save America. And then my faith, my the a guy from my Bible study who was doing his own um, Christian comic. He was like, "You're spending an awful lot of time drawing comic books. Does it glorify God?" And I said, it doesn't. I'm just having fun, and I'm hoping to land a job at Marvel or DC or something like that. And he's like, "All right, well, just pray about whether or not you should be honoring God with your art talent." And so I thought about it, and I said, "You know what? He's right." You know, so I approached the collaborator, and he just said, "You know what? You can have it," because I developed the look of him. I was kind of um, spitballing the plot anyway. And so once he backed away, I had to retool it then. At that time, I had 16 pages of a 22-page comic that I had to retool into a faith-based comic. And so out of that, I don't know, that's how Satan became the main enemy. So,
Right, right. Let me ask you a question about making uh art in the like Christian brand, I guess, or I
yeah,
don't know, Christian label or
yeah.
um so uh how do you avoid coming across kind of tacky or too because I read your like that issue one
Yeah.
and it's got all of the Christian like kind of characters and archetypes and stuff like that, but it's also just a cool action story.
Yeah.
So how do you what's your process on balancing that without, you know, coming across like too preachy, I guess.
Yeah. So I don't think I mean I don't like things that are too on the nose. And I think that's overall the rejection of any kind of ideology that's kind of forced on you. If you sniff it out, then you don't enjoy it for what it is. You don't enjoy the story. So I'm not trying to disguise that it's a Christian uh, faith-based comic, but it's not so on the nose that they're kneeling down and praying every 5 minutes, or kneeling down and praying before they go into battle. It's just who they are. It's just what. So if you read number one, he's not a believer yet. He knows about the Bible. He knows enough about the Bible that he, he he doesn't know whether he believes or not. He doesn't care because his parents are dead, his grandparents are dead. He's kind of a loner, and he's just kind of lost in life. He's a nice guy, but no direction, and so he doesn't know what he believes. So he has to go on this faith journey in order to become um, the champion that this kingdom organization needs him to be to save the world from the devil. So,
Hmm.
so I don't think it gets too preachy at all. I mean, at least I don't think so. And there's a lot of people who are not believers who have said that it's a good story. They recommend it to their friends, and they acknowledge the faith-based aspect of it, but they don't. They're not turned off by it, and they just see it as an element that moves the story forward.
Mhm. It kind of reminds me when you watch cartoons when you're a kid
Hmm.
and you're like, oh, this is great. It's like a kid thing. But
Hmm.
then when you grow up, you realize they put a whole bunch of little subtle things for the
Yeah,
parents,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
it's I think that's the balance to aim for. It's you got you can enjoy it if you don't understand this whole kind of tradition or whatever,
yeah.
but there's all these things kind of added in there that if you are intimate with this tradition, it's going to add another layer to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think if you're too on the nose, you disrespect your reader. Like you assume that you have to over explain something, or explain it in a way that they're like they're a child. And most people who are reading comics are not children. They understand um, inferences, like you infer things, or it's okay um, and to not say the whole thing. Like you don't
Mhm.
have to say Elon Musk, the creator of
Right.
Twitter or whatever. You just say Elon, and you can infer that it is the Elon we're talking about because of the context. You don't have to drill down on that person, that bad guy, that good guy, that whatever. And that's what
Mhm.
I think people are rejecting with mainstream comics as they're trying to infuse some of the ideology that they're infusing, and it's so on the nose. And you're like, I'm not even like that against it, it's all around us, right? That lifestyle and those things are all around us. I don't go around attacking people, and they don't go around. Well, nowadays it feels like they go around and they make sure that that they're LGBTQ, and you're like, I noticed the blue hair, so it's okay. You don't have to tell me. You're wearing the Rainbows. I get you.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to beat me over the head with it. So,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
Yeah.
I don't hate you. I don't, whatever. It's just whatever. Like, get it out of
Mhm.
my face.
Yeah.
So, so
Yeah. It's
when I put the Christianity in there, it's not like everybody's wearing crosses and everybody's,
uh-huh.
you know, saving each other with the Bible verse. The Bible verses are his inner monologue as he
Uh-huh.
needs a little extra encouragement or faith. He reaches into something that he doesn't necessarily even believe in yet to
Mhm.
find the hope or the strength to move to the next whatever.
Right. Well, Christians exist, so there's going to be Christian characters, and
Bible
they
man,
should behave as
Bible man,
Christians do.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, so that only makes sense.
hmm
let's talk about the look of the character, how
Yeah.
you developed like the costume design and all that.
Yeah. So like I think whenever we're inspired by something or uh, uh, we see something that we like, we want to either redraw it. Like that's how I got into drawing. You watch a cartoon. I drew Transformers, GI Joe. I picked up Spider-Man. You would draw it. And so when it comes to creating your own character and the look of your own character, it just makes sense for me to pick out the my favorite thing about my favorite characters and see if I can't make a cool character like a mashup. I don't know if you ever played with GI Joes. Did you have the little GI Joe
I
figures?
didn't. No, no, I didn't. I wasn't a huge. I had a lot of toys, but I was more into like Legos and stuff.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
for GI Joe, there's a screw on the back, and then you can unscrew it, and then there's a little rubber band inside, and you can take them all apart. You can take out the body, and then you can mix and match like their arms and legs. You can put like a Duke head on a Snake Eyes body, and so like we would always get extra. Well, I was a little thief when I was a kid, so I would steal my friends' GI Joes, and so I had multiple
Okay.
duplicates of some, and then I'd make other GI Joe out of it. And so when you're creating a character, you're kind of putting the best or your favorite parts of a costume together. The color scheme, whether it be a skin tight, kind of tights, or if it's going to be baggier, if they're more cloth clothing based or whatever, more realistic or
Mm,
more just lines on a naked body kind of design. So
mhm,
for Alpha Red, I always liked Deadpool. I liked Cyclops from the X-Men, and so his look really is the mashup of Deadpool and Cyclops, the Jim Lee era Cyclops with the goggles, but he has a mask. But I like that he had the hair, excuse me, and I liked, I don't know, the buckles, and then obviously the color scheme is influenced by Deadpool. So
mm. Yeah, it does look tactical,
yeah.
but because a lot of the costume is kind of like skin tight,
Mhm.
classic superhero,
Mm.
it does have like a nice blend, but it feels like you say, super soldier. It does feel like he's like got a little bit of tactical gear on, like you're saying, buckles and gun holsters and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a cool design. Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. I get a lot of compliments on his design, and so
Hmm.
it's red.
Yeah.
Everybody likes red, and that was part of
Yeah.
like when we were me and Mike and Bowden is the guy's name. We were saying like what it didn't need to be the most original character with the most original anything. It would just needed to be a lot of fun to draw and to look at and whatever. And so when I sat down to create the look of him, I drew the muscle guy, and then I was like, what do I like? And then you just start, kind of designing certain things, and you throw on things and what works, what doesn't work, and it just came out. And I was like, hey, I like this guy. What color is he? And then it was just red is the most popular color, so we're gonna make him red. And then I was like, well, Deadpool is red and black. I can do like my own version of Deadpool that's mixed
Mhm.
with Scott Summers. What if Scott Summers was Deadpool? And
Yeah, number one rule is that it has to look cool. That's
yeah,
my philosophy on
yeah.
comics.
Hey, you can't
Uh,
go wrong. It's visual, right? Don't
yeah.
get don't lose that.
Yeah. So you've got a campaign going.
I do.
Let's talk about that. And in the editing, I'll add some images to that.
Okay. Yeah.
So let's yeah, tell me it's for Alpha Red number 6, what's included and what are we looking at for this Kickstarter campaign?
Yeah, so it's not just on Kickstarter. It is on Kickstarter, and Kickstarter's the main one for me because that's the one that I've used in the past. I've done 5 successful Kickstarters in the past. I've had one unsuccessful Kickstarter, but I have it on 3 different platforms. I have it on Kickstarter, I have it on Indiegogo, and then I also have it on Fund My Comic. So if you want to go to Kickstarter, just go to alpharedcomic.com, and that takes you to the Indigo, the Kickstarter. And then my JamesQ.net takes you to the Indiegogo. And then I bought another URL, shopalphared.com will take you to fund my comic. And it's all the same offering, similar offering. The difference between each campaign is that it has its own exclusive homage cover. So you get this. This is the main um, the main cover, the regular cover. So if
Looks
you go
cool.
to, and you get this free with the purchase of any, with the backing of any of the covers. So if you go to Kickstarter, this is the exclusive Kickstarter homage cover of
That's awesome.
New Mutants. Thank you. New Mutants 98. It's the first appearance of Deadpool. So I've been
Yeah.
dying to use this cover as an homage. I started doing homages probably this time last year when I took my comic into my local comic book store and I said, "Hey, would you buy some of these for me so that I can sit on the shelf?" And he said, "No." He said, because for that $5 comic, I would have to buy it for $1. How much are you selling it for? And I was like, I have to pay $2.60 and I have to go pick it up. Thankfully, it's within driving distance, not close, but close enough that I can shave off some shipping costs by driving an hour because I'm a
Okay.
traveling salesman. I can schedule something around there, and then while I'm in the area, I can stop in, pick it up. So $2.60 for me to bring it home. So he's like, "There's no way." He said, so I said, "What for a guy like you? What would I have to do to uh, to get it into stores?" And he said, "Well, nobody knows who you are, so they have to be connected to the cover." So he said, "Everybody's doing homage covers," and so he suggested I do. Um, he said this was the most popular cover that everybody was picking up was Amazing
Okay.
Spider-Man number 300, and he said anything that has this cover, people would just pick it up just to flip through it. So that gives it a better chance than anything. So
Hmm.
so I went on a Spider-Man tear, and I went through all my favorite Spider-Man covers. That's
Awesome. That's a McFarlane homage.
Yeah, yeah. So McFarlane was the one who got me collecting. Like I liked
Mhm.
comic books, but I would just pick up whatever I wanted. And then he was the first artist that I really recognized as somebody different. So um, and so I started following him around just for
Yeah.
him. And this was Amazing Spider-Man number 316 that I
Mhm.
turned into Alpha Red number 2, and then number 3, Alpha Red number 3 instead of Amazing Spider-Man number 300. I just turned the 003. I turned the
Hmm.
300 to
Oh, I
003.
see. I see.
And then this was number 4, obviously Amazing Fantasy number 15, first appearance of Spider-Man. So I just stuck with the Spider-Man theme.
Hmm.
And then somebody suggested, because I ran out. I ran out of ones that I wanted to homage, and somebody suggested Amazing Spider-Man number 129, the first appearance of the Punisher. So
Oh,
I did all 5 of those, and but those have been pretty popular to have those
yeah.
available. So when I was doing this campaign, I wanted a special um, homage cover for each platform. I was only going to do Kickstarter, and then I kept hearing about Indiegogo. It's more indie friendly or whatever, and I'm not finding that to be true right now because they all went live on Monday, and Kickstarter is still, by far the best, um,
Mhm.
doing the best. But I have some history there, and it's set up that once you've done a campaign, you can whenever you send out an update, even on old campaigns, it'll send it out to your old backers. So everybody, I can notify people more easily on Kickstarter because I've already been on Kickstarter. So, and then if you go to Indiegogo, you get this Dark Knight Returns homage
Nice.
cover. Actually, I updated this pose because this was the Robin pose,
Hmm.
and somebody said that he looks like he's missing limbs. So I
Oh,
said, okay. So I picked another Batman pose, and so I swapped it out. So
okay.
this will go away. And then if you go to fund my comic, if you go to that shop alphared.com, You get the
Yeah.
exclusive Invincible Iron Man. This is the Invincible Iron
Yeah.
Man number 150, and this is Tony Stark Iron Man versus Doctor Doom. So Robert Downey Jr. plays both of these guys
Yeah. They
next
look
time.
great.
Yeah.
They look great. You must have learned a lot copying all these old masters. Like,
Yeah, so it's fun, but it's challenging. It's definitely not something that I would prefer to do. You
mm,
develop your own style, and then it's just kind of automatic, and it's always a mix of all your favorite
right.
artists. And so when you're trying to do just the one, and I was super excited to do this. This was such a labor of love because once I started it, I was like, I don't want to finish it. I was like, this is
Yeah.
so hard to try to keep somebody's art style. And it's really
Yeah.
mostly tracing because, I take let me see if I have it handy. Um, the original is somewhere, it's not nearby, but like I print it out and then I pencil it then. I use the actual picture and then I pencil over it and transform it into my characters. And then
mm,
so that I can maintain the style, so that I can maintain the proportions and all that. And then I go into ink and it's just such a different mindset when you're trying to figure out what they mean, how they're rendering
Mm-hmm.
things. You're like, oh man, that's not how I would have done it.
Mm.
But that was Rob Liefeld at like 22, 23, or however old he was when he created that. And here I
Yeah.
am 49 years old. I'm like, it's not the most artistically sound anatomy, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I wrote an article about Rob Liefeld on my Substack because, man, I love that guy. That guy is, I don't know if you've ever listened to his podcasts.
I do. I
That
do.
guy is so sincere.
Hmm.
There's no fakeness in his whole thing. He
Hmm.
does do the marketing like Stan Lee, like
Yeah.
hype it up a bit,
Yeah.
but it's all love with this guy, man. I love
Yeah.
this guy.
Yep. Yep.
And
For sure.
I think it comes out in his art. Like he's so excited. It just everything looks like he's excited about everything.
The energy does translate into his artwork. And
Yeah.
he's inspired. Like he tells you who he's inspired by. He's inspired by, like Jack Kirby
Mm,
and George Perez and a lot of these other guys. And he likes the craziest panels that they have, all the action
mhm,
panels, all the splash pages. Those are the ones that inspire him. And that's what he really tries to bring to every comic book. Every comic panel has to explode, like it has to be very dynamic. It has to be the most, and
mm,
so I think people respond to that one way or the other. They either love it or they hate it, and
yeah.
either way gets him attention. He's living rent
Yeah. I
free in the
think
minds of his haters. So,
time has been kind to him, I think, and I think history will as well. Like
mhm,
if you look at Kirby's stuff
mhm,
and forget it's Kirby, like
mhm,
if and you starting to judge it based on anatomical correctness and all
mhm.
that, it's that's not what it's about.
Yeah,
It's
it's energy. It's like,
it's the energy.
mhm.
Yes, yes.
It's trying to create, like he's trying to create the emotion. He's trying to he's not conveying realism. He's conveying like this extra like an extraordinary uh image of that that scene, you
Yeah.
know?
When I look at his stuff, it reminds me of when I used to play with toys when I was a kid
Yeah.
and the way that I would imagine them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the figures, Kirby's figures are kind of toy-like.
Yeah.
The way that they're blocky and
Hmm.
chunky and
Hmm.
that's what that reminds me of. And
Yeah.
like the way he does his designs. Anyway, I could go on for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
He's
and
he's
Romita.
legendary. Like I'm only learning about like how Kirby works, like how prolific he was. He would do like
Mhm.
6, 7 pages a day, inked.
It's crazy.
It's unfathomable. Like it takes me,
I can't wrap my mind around that.
yeah, yeah. So and Rob says when he goes and when he went over and met him and talked to him, he's like, I had to do it. I had to eat. They only paid me so much per page, and I just threw down whatever I could throw down. So he was just
Yeah.
like he never used an eraser, just like everything was just like
Yeah.
that's it. That's what you're getting. You're getting this right now. It came right out of my head and
Yeah.
no what is that? No do-overs.
Yeah. There's a story. I forget which artist asked Jack Kirby for some advice. I think it might have been Ramita Jr. And you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see
I
Ramita
remember that.
Jr. modeled his style after him a little bit. And he
Hmm.
asked him like how can I get fast like you or something like that? And Kirby told him, throw away your fucking eraser.
Right. It's the truth. I mean, like we see it as an art form, right? Like I watch some of your calm streams and you're pouring over it and you're like, this has to be just right. And we're doing like references and I do the references to it, like you just want it to be perfect. But that's
Yeah.
not what comics were in the beginning. Comics were
Hmm.
a way that they can sell advertisement to young people,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
they just needed 15 Spider-Man books to come out in a year. So it didn't matter, like it didn't matter that the artist was the best artist or whatever. He had to just hit his deadlines, and if you hit your deadlines, you got more work, and then hopefully you're good enough that people don't stop buying it, so that the kids, with their nickels and their dimes, would continue to buy your comic. If it was that bad,
Hmm.
then maybe the editor would recognize that and take you off the book. Really, you're just you're just drawing. Yeah, you're just drawing a commercial work. You are a cog in a machine. The artist is just a cog in a machine, and the machine is meant to sell advertisement. So that's why they sold hundreds of thousands
Right.
every
Right.
month.
Yeah. I think a part of well, also because I'm new, it's part of why I'm kind of like stressing over it. Starting to loosen up, starting to kind of enjoy myself more when I've always enjoyed it, but I'm starting to loosen up, especially in the inks. But I
Hmm.
think also because what I grew up on was like the Tintin stuff.
Okay.
And so like my first contact with comic was like top of the heap artist,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the masters of the masters, right?
Right.
So,
Right,
mm,
right.
yeah.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, we grew up like I grew up with Todd McFarlane was the first artist that I recognized his artwork as standing out.
Mhm.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
I thought everybody was the same. I thought there was a house
Yeah.
style, I guess,
There
and
was.
yeah, it would kind of was, a Gil Kane or a George Perez or like something Cochran or whomever, but they're all John Byrne. Everybody was kind of similar in those ways, and that's what people kind of liked. And then came Todd McFarlane, and his was like his anatomy was not quite right, and he had
Mm,
lots more detail, lots more lines, and
mm,
so that kind of stood out to me. And so those are the artists that I was inspired by. Once I found him, then I found Jim Lee, then I found Will Spataccio. Rob Liefeld was always kind of in the mix. Like if there was not any new Jim Lee or Todd McFarlane or whatever, I'd pick up the New Mutants or I'd pick up X Force or whatever.
mm,
But he wasn't high on the list. But uh, but yeah, that's what we started comparing ourselves to, and we didn't have it wasn't a commercial product. Like I didn't think of it that way. I just thought that these were masterpieces. Every panel was a masterpiece, as far as I was concerned when I discovered
mhm.
comic books, 14, 13, 14, 15 when I was discovering them and they were creating image and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, like every picture is perfect. And then I started getting better and I was like, wait a minute, that's not that good. That's not that good. So I was like, I can do this. If this
Yeah.
sells, I totally got this.
Mhm.
And then I didn't. I didn't get in.
Well, you did. Alpha Red looks great. I think it's a good comic. I think people should check it out.
No, I appreciate
I'll
that.
be leaving the links in the description. So yeah, thanks for coming on the Comics Odyssey
Yeah.
and for sharing your work with us. So
Yeah.
once again, the links,
Yeah. If
maybe
you
you
want,
want to list them out.
sure, sure. If you want to support me on Kickstarter, that's alpharedcomic.com. Go to alpharedcomic.com. That'll be the Kickstarter. Then JamesQ.net will take you to Indiegogo, and that'll be the Dark Knight Returns homage cover. And then the final one is Fund My Comic, and you can go to shopalphared.com to support me on Fund My Comic.